Hello, everybody. Just trying to get my document camera to not flip over. I guess I gotta have it a little bit higher up. Anyways, what are we working on today? We are working on another of the Noah's Archipelago bonus cartoons for the first anthology, and it's kind of the bookend to this one that I did a couple weeks back of Noah showing up late. This will be the comic that or the bonus cartoon that is right before you flip the page to the very first comic in the anthology. So Noah's arriving late and he skipped the introduction, all that stuff. What we're going to do today is the one on the other side. So you've seen the very last comic, and then you get this one, and it is Noah and his daughter Ursula. And Ursula, who is a huge cartoon fan, she is not thrilled about the fact that there are suddenly no more cartoons. So let's get into that. And Noah, of course, well, I mean, the first thing I'm going to do is the lettering up top. So we will see what they're doing. The underdrawing here is a non-photo blue pencil underdrawing. So this is kind of a part of like traditional old-timey comics, because back in the day, if you were using a Xerox machine or scanning in black and white, this light blue vanishes. So yeah, it saves you a lot of effort. Whereas if you did your underdrawing in pencil, especially the sketching, now if you're talking about like DC, Marvel, those guys, certainly back in the day, and I presume they have a digital version of it now, but you would have the main art done in this sort of blue pencil, and then there would be the quote unquote penciling stage, wherein someone would go over the the final lines with an actual like HB, graphite pencil, and that would show where the actual line is. Because here with the blue, you can be a lot messier and kind of rough, right? And then you'd have the penciling stage, and then that's a guideline for the inking stage. A lot of that too is, and sometimes the inking was done on like vellum. So basically, if you're not familiar, vellum's kind of like tracing paper, but sturdier. Um, whereas me, you know, that sort of workflow a lot of times has multiple artists working on it, whereas I am me, myself, and I. So I skip the penciling stage and go straight from a blue pencil underdrawing to the ink, whether I'm doing it as I am today with a dip pen, and I'm using ye old Speedball. I don't want to tip it to show the logo because then it's going to go. But Speedball Super Black. Um, so that's what I use. I complain about it all the time. This bottle is getting better the more I go. I don't know if that means someone like, so when I first opened it, it was harder to get the real blacks, even if I'd shaken it up. So it was kind of thin and looking more dark gray. So I don't know if it's just that because I've been using the bottle for a while, it's like half empty now. Um, whether it may have even simply just evaporated out some fluids and now it's more concentrated, so it's more black. I don't know. I do feel like it's not quite as good as, bottles I had a number of years ago. That's a common complaint of mine. And I have other black inks, but I do still kind of like this Speedball. I swear there was another one that I've gotten that's supposed to be better than the Speedball Super Black. Can I find where I put that little bottle? No, Eh. Which then makes me go, "Did I actually buy it, or was it, like, on my intention list to buy, and then I just never got around to it?" Uh, or I buy it and then somehow it ended up, like, in a drawer with, you know, some other art supplies or just randomly in a drawer somewhere. It's like, "I'll put this away later," and then you know, my studio organization, leaves a lot to be desired, we'll just put it that way. Um, anyways, so because I'm doing it on my own, and I'm assuming I'm gonna be doing some photoshopping after I scan these bonus cartoons, then, I'm not too concerned about getting out vellum and all that sort of stuff. I have done that on once or twice before on, like, previous comic projects a long time ago, and I do actually still have some vellum kicking around somewhere, but, you know, all the vellum sheets I have are, like, tabloid sized, and that's way bigger than the scanner I have, so that's why I can't be bothered. Obviously, could I cut it? Yes. But that's an extra step. So, there we've got Ursula saying, "That's it? No more cartoons?" And Noah is calmly explaining to her, which is to say it's gonna go in one ear and out the other. We gotta save some for the next book, which is true. I don't know how many Noah cartoons I have so far, but I have been doing it since 2022. In theory, I upload 4 times a week. Especially the last couple years, for a while there, that was definitely not the case. Um, but there's still plenty. Um, definitely there's over 300 because I think, oh god, there's gonna be like 500 comics by now. And the first book is going to have 174. So yeah, there's not just the next book, there's a few next books. And I am like way behind in getting these out. So the first book is actually going to cover from the start of Noah, this archipelago in July of 2022 until I think the last one in the book is March 4th, 2023. So it's not even a full year. Um, but also, the actual cartoons are in full color. So, and I'm self-publishing on Amazon, and, you look at their printing costs, it's kinda getting like, "Okay, this book is gonna end up being like a $30 book." So just because of printing costs and all that. So, I figured 174 kind of kept it, um, at a more reasonable kind of price versus even going just the first year, which I think is like 320 comics or something like that. Um, that was gonna end up being, well, not twice as expensive, but it was gonna end up being where I was gonna have to charge like 40 bucks or something. So, not good. Granted, it is more expensive if you are, self-publishing via Amazon KDP for this sort of stuff because, um, instead of like paying a printing company up front, which might have a lower cost per unit, but you'd have to get like 1,000 units, and then storing a pallet load of books in your garage or something. And some of us don't have garages. Um, you're paying for the convenience of print on demand through KDP, the Kindle Direct program. And that means that your cost per unit before they start paying royalties is that much higher. And yeah, anyways, so even with the book being like 30 bucks, I'm gonna make $5 per copy. Granted, I'm gonna make $5 per copy and royalties from day one, as opposed to if I paid out of pocket then I gotta cover costs beforehand or, like recoup basically my printing costs before I can start really calling it profit. But anyways, it's always a balancing act. If you don't mind doing the shipping yourself and you've got good promotion you know, and you've got a garage, then you might decide to go with having them printed and then you just send copies to Amazon as if you're like a marketplace seller. And that's totally valid and whatnot. But I have a feeling I'm going to be photoshopping Ursula's hand. In fact, I know I'm going to be photoshopping Ursula's hand because of that finger. But we will, and actually this finger too. But we will worry about those later when the book is ready to go into Photoshop. So, yeah, I'm gonna use this nib, outline Noah. Hopefully by then enough stuff is dried. Then I'll start with the backdrop, and they're in a darkened movie theater, so I'll use my fatter nib for that, um, and try to not smudge it with my arm. Wish me luck. Of course, I'll be using a couple different nibs probably in Noah's hair because he has it various colors, which he insists is the natural thing, but he sure spends a lot of time in the salon for it to be his natural color. also come back afterwards and putting, wrinkles in the fabric a little bit, not a huge amount, but just a little bit. Give some dimensionality. I've got a couple little water containers off to the side to kind of flush out most of the ink. Give things a more thorough clean after the stream is over. Maybe I should put that sort of, well, can't really get it in a frame where you can see, but it'll be good enough for now. All right, so the big fat nib. Focus, probably not. But if I hold it down there, you can sort of see maybe how much fatter that this one is than that. Kind of one of my go-to background sort of nibs. Right, yes. Now the top is not like it's going to get cropped out, but I don't yet know exactly where I'm going to do this crop, so I'm just going to take the dark background color pretty much right to the edge, and then we'll worry about the cropping later. These particular like bonus cartoons for the Noah anthology don't have a specific size that they will need to be in the book yet, because they're going to kind of be inserted on, at the bottom of texts, pages with texts, and, the middle of blank pages. So we've got leeway there, which is why I don't have like an outside box or whatever to show where it has to fit. Now I'm gonna give a little bit of kind of a white outline. I'm not gonna take the black all the way down to Ursula's hair, same with Noah. Um, Now both of them are gonna have some color in their hair, because well, Ursula's kind of auburn, reddish brown, and Noah's hair is a mix of different shades of brown and gray, a little bit of gray. Um, but I think having that little bit of outline kind of helps set them apart from the background. And if I'm looking at it at a later date and going like, "Ah, I don't know, it just looks sloppy," well, I can always fix it later, right? It's a lot easier to take out a white kind of halo effect than it is to add one later. So, but I also don't mind the background touchy in some spots. I do want it to look a little bit undone. Now, other thing is that the seat next to them, I'm gonna say, is one of those theater seats that, that flips up when nobody's sitting in it. So, kinda have that and give that a bit of a white edge as well. I did have kind of like these kind of like swoop lines for because Ursula is like flopping her hand around, waving. Um, but I might I think I might just, no, well, I'm gonna leave those in. Again, it's something that I can take out later in Photoshop if I don't like it, but I'd kind of rather have this little effect. And then I'll use a thinner line to kind of go, yeah, no, see. That's one of those ones that's a little bit awkward to kind of figure in black and white because in the comics, which are in full color, like that would be a black line, and then um, and then I'd have a bit, a colored background, so they stand out that way. But, anyways, whatever. Since I'm already contradicting myself, because here against the seat, I'm taking the color right up to the edge of her hair. So, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna forget what I said earlier. We're gonna make it dark right to there. The nice thing kind of with drawing on camera is I've got my laptop right over there running the stream, so I can actually look over there and see it from a different angle through the camera, and it's like, oh, actually, it looks better if I don't do that. It looks better if I fill that in. And I'm leaving the white there because, yeah, I'll have to Photoshop in that her finger goes that way. I'm gonna finish Ursula before coming in and filling in Noah's seat and whatnot because I get fairly big wet spots when I don't know if it sort of shows like that. But you can see the really glossy spots. Those are going to stay wet for quite a while. Whereas where the ink is applied a little more thinly, it'll dry a lot quicker. So so I don't smudge over here. I'm gonna go right ahead and flesh out this nib and go with a thinner nib. I'm just using a paper towel to kind of blot out after I've like swished thoroughly swished the nib in my water containers. Um, so let's go for a more kind of open nib. This is the one I use for a lot of my sort of medium weight. Um, well, I guess in this one, this other one is the more medium weight line, but and this is going to be thinner. If we bring them up like that. But the actual line as drawn is not going to look that much different, just a little bit. So because Ursula isn't a platinum blonde, we're gonna just kind of put in some lines indicating the direction of her hair. Ursula's hair is kind of unmanageable. The odd cartoon where she gets up um, to go berate her parents if they're making noise after her bedtime. That sort of stuff. And even if it's like just after her bedtime, her hair suddenly will be very wild and crazy looking. Yeah. Probably gets that from her father and his curls. At this point, I mean, I draw Noah with more wavier hair, but for a while his hair was very curly looking. So I guess he's learned the art of the blowout, is what I'm saying. Meanwhile, some of us have very straight, fine, flat hair. We would love to have wild, well, my hair is unmanageable in other senses, but I'd love to have hair that had volume. I was not so blessed as when I was Ursula's age or ever any age. And kind of give some shading to her little hair ties in there. And definition to her collar. And now we will just kind of add the illusion of depth and emptiness to her popcorn container. Her father in the previous cartoon was shown coming in with a gigantic soda, popcorn container, and big bag of Twizzlers, but seems it's all gone now. And let's give some stripes to a thing. Guess the kind of red and white stripe look is kind of traditional-ish for a popcorn container. I don't know why. Last time I was at the movie theater, it was just a blue paper bag. So there. We will call that done for Ursula. And now I'm going to do this section of the seating, and then we'll work on Noah. So we're changing it again. Back to the big fat nib. I don't think it's in focus, but anyways. Well, you know what it looks like vaguely. And I will do the same thing of going right to the line of Noah's hair. Might as well. And the last thing we will do will be this segment of the chair, of the theater seats, but we need that to not, we need to kind of monitor how we do things so that we have, so that we minimize the amount of dragging my wrist does over potentially wet ink. I will need to tidy up in Photoshop to get this edge because I got a little too close to it. And I lost my kind of white outline. think I'm gonna take out that one little bit of hair so we have a cleaner line on his cheek. So now, so basically, yeah, this water was clear, but I'm just shaking it around to get the excess out of the nib, and then quick dab on the paper towel. That also will tell me if I need to swish it more. But yeah, we will go. And there's always some water that finds its way into that little circular cutout. Anyways, back to this nib. So first thing I'm going to do is some different hair tones for Noah. In the full color comic, I think there's 5 colors in Noah's hair because his bangs here and his little wings are gray. And then if I have a, like, probably should have left that one gray where I've got a hair like here where it's not connected, then I might do that one in gray as well. And then there is like a dark kind of chestnut brown and then like a dark kind of like ashy brown and then a darker brownish red and then a kind of a darker red. Now in black and white, it's a little harder to communicate that, so kind of doing stuff like that where there's just very light directional lines in the bits that are gray. Um, and then denser where it would be one of the darker shades, but we don't really don't worry so much about distinguishing between the darker shades. So, of course, also in the comic, I tend to use flat color for people's hair. Exception would be somebody who has roots. So, like one of Noah's ex-wives, Denise, has very dark brown roots, but very light brown tips. So she's doing like what's the term they use, balayage or whatever, ombre kind of hair. So in that case, I would color her the lighter color flat, and then kind of take the darker color at her roots. But that's also kind of a flat. So I don't really do directional lines in hair in the actual comic, but it is helpful for black and white version. So you kind of want it so it looks like it's different tones, not like here it's a little too samey same, right? So I'll darken up some of these pieces with more directional lines. Now, the book is actually being printed in color, so I could have done this in color, but then it would kinda make more sense if I was going to do the bonus cartoons in color that I probably should have, just done them in Procreate, but I wanted something a little bit different, so that's why we're doing the dip pen. It's a style that's a little bit more for my other comic project, Ricky B. the Rock and Roll Rat. Um, so I've done a couple, related, inking sessions for, like, Miles, Ricky's buddy Miles having jury duty. I'm now doing like a Monday live stream. That's all that sort of stuff. And I guess that actually brings us to so the next Friday stream. It's not that I'm done with Noah's bonus cartoons, but um, I think I'm done in terms of like inking the last few. I won't ink live on stream. I'll record it, and I have a different video project that I'm working on, and they'll go in there. But what I'm going to start doing as of next week is one of the Ricky B. Rat graphic novels that I'm working on. It's called Ricky B. Goes to Sea. Now, for the shorts on my channel, I have actually already done, I think I've inked about 6 or 7 pages for Ricky B. Goes to Sea. Oops. Um, so I think what I'm going to start doing is starting from the first page in the front, at least the first page in the front that isn't already inked, obviously. I will start working on one per week on these Friday streams. So next time, next Friday, we should be seeing Ricky in his bedroom, face down. He didn't make it into bed. He passed out on the floor next to his bed, which is kind of a common motif with Ricky. Um, and that's all I'll say about that. But he's woken up by a voice from on high. So we'll start working on that, and then I will also have some pages from later in the book. But I think the stuff for later in the book, I'm not gonna do. I may be working on it, but not on camera. Or if I'm working on it on camera, I won't. Certain pages I won't show because don't want to spoil the ending of that book. But certain ones where I can get away and they won't spoil the ending of the book, I'll be filming for different project. Which actually, I don't know if I've added the channel to like the recommended channels or whatever on the homepage for this channel, but there's a channel I just made yesterday or the day before called Sketch and Scuttlebutt because I was doing a Saturday kind of a floss tube style show. Like if you're familiar with some of the floss tubers where they have like a weekly or not always weekly, sometimes it's only monthly, but a regular show where uh, I kind of borrowed the format actually from Priscilla and Chelsea, where they would talk about, and obviously they're doing cross stitch and they do have a business now, but sort of what they worked on this week, what's new in their shop, where they're getting inspiration, like what TV shows they've been watching, that sort of thing. And I did like 8 episodes like that, talking about my art, um, particularly my painting. And then I kind of realized like this is kind of serving a similar function as like an artist vlog, but wasn't doing it as well. So now I'm doing artist vlogs, but I still like that word scuttlebutt. And then I also had an idea. I've had some people, especially in terms of like character development and world building, of friends where they'll ask me something about my graphic novel, and I'll start explaining about the world and all this, and they're like, "How do you come up with all this stuff?" I start I start explaining, and their eyes glaze over, and then I take the hint and shut up. But I was kinda thinking, well, maybe that would be useful information to people who are actually working on graphic novels or want to work on a graphic novel or whatnot. So, anyways, I'm gonna take that scuttlebutt name, and I will be, starting to do some videos where I do a voiceover giving some tips about whatever topic of the week, but the video underneath would be like this kind of stuff. So where I'm working on something, um, just so that there's some visual interest rather than me just like sitting there and you're looking at my talk at my yapping head. Um, so, anyways, hopefully get that launched in March. Anyways, so what did I just draw here? Noah's not a big fan of buttoning his shirt. Yeah. He wants to go back to, I guess, the '70s and whatnot. He actually, what he really needs is a big gold medallion, but, you know, that would, the big gold medallion and the gold chains and stuff in the '70s, they might snag your chest hair. I imagine that's annoying and probably hurts. So anyways, he just does the unbuttoned shirt sort of thing. Uh, Might actually make the shirt a bit darker because right now the chest hair and the, folds in the shirt are kind of similar tones. So let's assume his shirt is a little bit darker so we can give it, I mean, hair in a dark room. So even if it's like mint green or something, it's gonna have some heavier shadows in it. So we'll thicken that up so it looks a little more contrasty. Yeah, even that's better. Um, Anyways, the whole scuttlebutt thing. I mean, I'll once I start posting videos, I will start posting a link to whatever in the description. Just like right now, I have links to my other stuff in the description on this video. But yeah, it was the other day I was planning out some topics and whatnot. I don't think I've said anything about it in my vlog yet. I'll have to maybe do mention that a little bit, or that me explaining just now. Maybe that's the clip of this stream that I'll put in this week's vlog. Like there, kill two birds with one stone. Uh, how's that looking? I do need to pay more attention looking at like fabric folds and stuff like that. I think I put dark spots where actually the fabric would be coming up and therefore be lighter. Anyways, whatever. There. So now, all we have left really is, well, I guess I should give a little bit of shadow under Noah's chinny chin chin. And then I should do that the same on Ursula. There. Yeah, that's a little better because, they're in a theater, it's dark, the lights haven't gone on yet. And even when the lights are on in the theater, they're usually pretty dark. All right, now we just have to grab the big fat nib again and fill in this part of the seat, and then we will be done for the day. And done in terms of Noah bonus cartoons on this stream. I've been liking doing these live streams. Actually, it's forced me to be a lot more accountable and getting more stuff done on my book projects as opposed to being like, next week, next week. It's like, no. Anyways, that's why I have my I started the Miles Monday one, and we will be continuing with that. And I am kind of thinking come March, I don't know if I'll do it every week because there's a writers group uh, thing that I go to on some Thursdays, but I'm kind of thinking I may start like a weekly Noah um, Noah live stream where I'm working on this style of drawing for Noah. Now, normally it's a digital comic, and I am soon going to be. I've only got after this one. I've only got 3 more bonus cartoons to do for this first anthology. But A, there's going to be more anthologies, and B, kind of think it would be fun to do like a Noah coloring book or something. Um, so I mean, I'd do it with a dip pen. I may do it with these sorts of pens. Um, but I might do like some sort of a Noah work live stream on Thursday nights, starting in March. And then it would kind of be like Monday nights, work on Miles stuff. Um, Tuesday nights, the brainstorming, because that always ends up. When I sit down at like 5:58 right before going live at 6 p.m. on the brainstorming nights on Tuesday, I have no idea. I might vaguely have an idea of a theme, but I have no plans specifically for what I'm going to draw, and it always ends up being kind of interesting. Sometimes goes off in all sorts of unexpected directions, and those can be fun. So those are fun. Wednesday nights I won't because Wednesdays are kind of a crazy busy day for me. So, and I think it's good to have one night off in the middle of the week. And so then I would do on Thursdays a Noah drawing stream. And then the Fridays starting next week are going to turn over to a Ricky B. Rat inking stream. So now this got that kind of darker, but then it's more broken up. So I'm going to add a little bit more. Not that I want it 100% black in here, but I just don't want the black outline. I want it to look a little more varied. Even that, maybe a tiny bit more randomly over here. Right. And we'll fatten things up a little bit at the very top as well. And then I think we are pretty much done with this one. How's that looking on camera? Yeah. So there we have. Yeah, I think I do want to. I always see a little bit more that you could do, a little bit more that you can do, but you got to be careful because if you do a little too much, there. But that kind of gives that popcorn is empty kind of look. And All right. So here we have it. Noah and Ursula. Not entirely to scale because I normally draw her head right now is about it's a little bit smaller than her father's head, but not by much. Usually I draw her a little bit smaller. She is the shortest girl in her class. But anyways, so there we have that. Let me move the ink out of the way before I screw up and elbow it. So yeah, those are the two bookends around the comics section of the Noah anthology. Noah showing up late. Of course, I realize here I have not drawn Ursula, but maybe she's sitting in this seat right here. Maybe she's just a little bit over. They grabbed seats in the middle of the row. Anyways, so it'll have that, and then the 174 comics, and then Ursula not satisfied. All right. Well, there is tonight's inking. Hope you've enjoyed the stream. And yeah, check out my other stuff on the channel. I've got a few of these inking streams up now. I've got a few of the brainstorming streams. And then, of course, I have artist vlogs and all that good stuff. So thank you for watching. Hope you had fun. Have a great weekend. Oh, it's Valentine's Day weekend, right? Today's Friday the 13th. Um, and then tomorrow's Valentine's. So if you haven't gotten your flowers yet, be patient. The lineup's going to be long in most stores. Anyways, have a great weekend and a great week. I will see you on Monday for working on Miles and inking the left side of the case spread. And then Tuesday for brainstorming. And next Friday, some Ricky B, the rock and roll rat. So see you then. Bye for now.